I'm Ryan O'Dowd, and you're listening to Ryan's Audiobooks on the Issues Magazine YouTube channel. Today we're continuing with Section 613, Prometheus Rising, by Robert Anton Wilson. We're picking up in Chapter 8, The Moral Socio-Sexual Circuit. Time binding, the transmission of symbols and tools across generations, begins on the third circuit. Acute consciousness time is, however, intensified on the fourth circuit. The principal function of the socio-sexual circuit in the higher primates is to form an adult personality, a parent. By definition, the parent is one who cares for the young of the species. By genetic necessity, the parent also cares about the young. In symbolizing humans, this means planning, hoping, and having aspirations. In the language of the mystics, this means being attached and trapped on the wheel of karma. The first effort in most mystical traditions is to break this fourth circuit attachment by taking a vow of celibacy. Homosexuality, like left-handedness, is probably included in the genetic script to serve auxiliary functions. In most primitive societies, the homosexuals and the left-handed are shunted into shamanic roles. In more complex societies, they are, like spinsters and heterosexual bachelors, usually shunted into intellectual or artistic roles, which have quasi-shamanic functions of making, breaking, or transforming cultural signals. Those who claim any perennial sexual variation is against nature are underestimating nature's variety, diversity, and economy. The mutation of Leonardo da Vinci, a left-handed homosexual, was needed to break up the signal of the dying medieval reality tunnel and remake our perceptions into the reality tunnel of post-Renaissance scientific humanism. His success is registered by the fact that a Leonardo painting is still the norm of what we mean by realism, i.e. most people, including right-handed heterosexuals, are living in the scientific humanist space this man invented. The fourth circuit is located in the left neocortex, the newest part of the left hemisphere of the brain. It is linked neurologically with the genitalia and the breasts, fucking, hugging, embracing, protecting circuitry. Persons who take their heaviest imprint on this circuit are beautiful. That is, their entire body has received so many sexual neurotransmitters from the brain, they are constantly radiating the attractive mating signals that make up our perception of what is beautiful in a human being. According to accidents of imprinting, they can be coldly calculating exploiters, totally repressed Puritans, or carry some other negative traits, but they always look like, send the signals of, the ideal fucker, lover, protector. Once formulated, morality serves as not only a check on genetic drift, but a brake against Circuit 3 innovation. The shamans, priests, etc. define which ideas are moral and which are immoral. Anything new, anything that will break the tribal cycle, i.e. take us out of cyclical mythic time, is usually defined very quickly as immoral. To say that religion and priestcraft have played a conservative role in history is an understatement. One might as well say that bubonic plague has killed a few people, or that Hitler was a bit strange. The chief role of religion has always been reactionary. This is its evolutionary function in the dialectic circuitry of the brain. Circuit 3 unchecked is like a cocaine monologue. You can't remember anything because everything is changing too fast. This is profoundly disorienting to the average domesticated primate. So the tribal moralist keeps stability and tranquility by acting as decelerators. The average person similarly is philosophically most open and curious before the adult sex role of parenthood is elected. After reproduction, there's little time for Circuit 3 speculations, and because of the sanctions every tribe places upon heresy, i.e. new ideas, there's also little inclination. Thus, Circuit 3 tends to take us out of tribal cyclical time into linear progressive time, but Circuit 4 loops us back into the cycle again. Homosexuals may or may not be the chief creators of cultural innovation, as some gay pride advocates claim. But it is certainly true that they have done more than their share. The reason, they're not trapped in parent roles. These four circuits are coded with 4 permutations of each into the court cards of the tarot deck. Thus, the Knight of Discs, representing Earth according to the occultists, is the first pure first circuit type. All sensation, all oral demand, all viscerotonic. Behind their alchemical, kabbalistic, theosophical jargon, most books on tarot are describing this type when they discuss this card, the pure undiluted mama's boy. The queen of discs, or earth-water, is a mixture of first and second circuit traits. Sensational, viscerotonic, oral, and emotional, egotistic, political. You better be damned careful to call her Ms. The prince of discs, or earth-air, is a blend of first and third circuits. Oral demand and rational calculation. Probably a very sharp and sharkish lawyer. The princess of discs, or earth-fire, is first circuit orality mixed with fourth circuit sexuality. This fusion of exhibitionism with inflamed eros means she's probably starring in porn movies. In all disc cards, the first circuit predominates over the others. The queen of cups, or water, is emotion and territorial demand. Nelson Aldrin had her in mind when he said, "Never bed down with a woman who has more problems than you." The knight of cups, water-earth, is emotion plus sensation, the pure predator, marauder, thief, rapist, or sociopath. The prince of cups, or water-air, is emotion plus reason, the humanist, humanitarian, liberal, an ideal Unitarian minister. The princess of cups is water-fire, an explosive mixture of egotism and sexuality. Scarlet O'Hare, the femme fatale. The prince of swords is air, all pure, undiluted intellect. His feet never touch the earth. He lives amid floating abstractions, the monk scholar. The knight of swords is air, earth. Reason and oral exhibitionism. The actor, orator, demagogue, sometimes the artist. The queen of swords is air, water. Reason plus emotion. The greats in science and art are generally of this imprint group. The princess of swords is air, fire, reason and sexuality. The good parent, usually the Puritan, but sometimes the crusader for sexual freedom. In any case, the motivating drive is an attempt to impose abstract reason upon the genetic imperatives of the mating urge. The princess of wands is fire, sexuality at its most powerful. These types are usually, but not necessarily, quite promiscuous. Sometimes they pour all their erotic energy into one mate and raise huge families, parenting being a strong part of the Fourth Circuit. E.g. Bach, who may have written the sexiest music in history, had 20 kids. The Knight of Wands is fire, earth, sexuality and sensationalism, the playboy, Reich's phallic narcissist. The Prince of Wands is fire, air, sexuality plus reason. These types are likely to get involved in the kind of empirical mysticism that's not tolerated by the local authorities, e.g. the Tantrists in India, the Knights Templar and witches in medieval Europe, Aleister Crowley and Wilhelm Reich most recently. Crowley said this card was a portrait of his true self. The Queen of Wands is fire, water, sexuality and emotional politics. The law courts have a steady parade of this type passing through every day. The clever Kabbalists who designed this pictorial key to the four primitive circuits included a clue to higher consciousness, for they teach that each element in traditional alchemy, earth, air, fire, water, corresponds to one of these tarot suits, discs, swords, wands, cups, and to one of the letters in the holy unspeakable name of God, YHVH. The correspondences are as follows: Y, fire, wands, circuit 4, H, water, cups, circuit 2, V, air, swords, circuit 3, H, earth, discs, circuit 1. The logic of this imagery is quite clear to the unconscious mind, and these associations appear frequently in dreams, as Jung documented in Psychology and Alchemy. The aim of the Kabbalah is to make the microcosm mirror the macrocosm, that is, to make the human being a perfect image of God. This means putting together of the four alchemical elements symbolized by the letters YHVH. In other words, bringing the four circuits into balance. This is the same lesson as taught in the Buddhist mandalas with four daemons in the corners and the circle representing awakening in the middle. The married look, the mom and dad look, etc., which are not scientific concepts but which everybody can recognize at once, have to do with an acute time sense. The parent is concerned not just with acquiring biosurvival tickets for personal nurture, but with acquiring tickets for the young and for the future. Behaviorists tell us wonderful stories about the intricate patterns that can be conditioned into experimental animals. They say we have, by selective reinforcement, trained this rat so that at the sound of a bell he runs up a ladder, presses button A, races across a plank and down another ladder, presses button B, dashes across the cage, and waits at the food slot for his meal to arrive. Lest anybody think this book is written from a perch of superiority, consider the similar but more complex behavior which the author followed for 20 years. He would set an alarm clock before sleep every night. When the alarm woke him, he would breakfast hurriedly, rush off to catch a bus, ride to a subway, change to the train, ride to an office building, rush through the lobby, board an elevator, ride to a certain floor, enter an office, and toil at repetitious and generally pointless tasks for 8 hours. This behavior sequence had been shaped, as B.F. Skinner would say, by reinforcement delivered every second week in the form of biosurvival tickets, money. These tickets were necessary to the biosurvival of 4 independent children. The reader of this book can probably remember, somewhat dimly, the imprinting and conditioning of each of these circuits. They all began as infants in a one-dimensional world, orally hooked to mommy. The further away from mommy we crawled, the greater was our biosurvival anxiety, and we generally returned to mommy as quickly as possible. The key imprint incidents of this period, together with the associated conditioning, determine concretely how much we currently exhibit of anxiety or self-confidence, rootedness or explorativeness, dependency or independence. Then, when the DNA sent the appropriate RNA messenger molecules to the glands, endocrine system, etc., a mutation occurred. Our gross morphology, our whole body, changed, and our minds changed in the process. That is, our reality tunnel dilated into 2 dimensions when we rose up and began to walk around the house and started learning who we could dominate, who could dominate us, who could be dominated at some times and not at others, etc. We developed out of amorphous biosurvival consciousness into stubborn individual ego. We were imprinted and conditioned with a particular style of emotional territorial politics. At this stage, we were imprinted and conditioned for dominance or submission, self-confidence or self-doubt, strong ego or weak ego, high pack status or low pack status, giving orders or taking orders, aren moral or sklav moral. We were subsequently conditioned to switch between these reflexes depending on whether the person we were dealing with was higher in the pecking order or lower in the pecking order. Middle-class people, e.g. Reagan conservatives, John Birchers, etc., will always revere those higher in the pecking order, and equally will always have some reason to persecute, peck at the poor, who are lower in the pecking order. Hence, they will say and even believe that they are being robbed by the poor on welfare, who get about 4% of the tax dollar, and never notice that the military-industrial complex is getting 72% of their tax dollar. This is normal mammalian sociobiology. After this second circuit reality tunnel is wired in, the organism molts and mutates again into the verbal stage, and a third circuit style of mentation imprinted. That is, on top of a protoplasmic consciousness and mammalian ego, we acquire human mind, which is created by and creator of human artifacts and speech. Feral children who survive in isolation from human society have no mind in the human sense. That's why they're called feral. In this semantic stage of imprint vulnerability, we acquire either fluency or inarticulateness, dexterity or clumsiness, good mind or a dumb mind. Why do we say dumb for stupid? Because a good mind means a good mouth, and the human mind is a verbalizing circuit. At puberty, another DNA trigger fires, and RNA messengers initiate another morphological mutation of body-mind. The adult personality is imprinted and conditioned. We become moral or immoral, robot obedient or robot disobedient, solid citizen or sexual outlaw, parent or anarchist. Lack of understanding of these morphological changes and their persistence in imprint circuits in the brain is responsible for most failures in communication and for the general sense of exasperation with which we too often confront each other. Since everybody's imprints are a little bit different, the average is that which nobody totally is. We all feel, at times, like the legendary Quaker who told his wife, "All the world is mad but me and thee, and sometimes I wonder about thee." James Joyce justified anarchism on the grounds that the state is concentric and the individual is eccentric. Thus concludes section 613, Prometheus Rising by Robert Anton Wilson. Tomorrow we will pick up again in chapter 8, the moral socio-sexual circuit, in section 614. I will see you then. Olam.